journey friends, I'm Sara Sach. Welcome back to my crochet channel. I'm really glad you're here because this is an exciting time. It's Christmas in July and this is our first project for 2025. It is called the Candy Cane Striped Washcloth and it is done using the technique called C2C or corner to corner. The washcloth measures 9 by 9 inches, and you can use it as a doily maybe, or a washcloth, or a dishcloth. It's really versatile, whatever you want to use it for. It's stitched up really simple, 2 rows back and forth, and then decrease down, and then add this beautiful green trim. Now I did mine red and white and green for Christmas, but you could use any colors that you want to. Just make sure you do it in cotton because we want this to be absorbent because it is a washcloth. You can use a cotton or a cotton blend for this project. We'll talk more about yarns in just a few seconds. Now, this complete pattern is on my blog, and as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make our candy cane striped washcloth, you're going to need 3 different colors, and I love this cotton from Hobby Lobby because I had it on hand. It's very soft for the white and the red, and then the green is just some that I had on hand. I believe it's peaches and cream. I'm not really sure, but I wanted it to be like an elf green. And you're going to need approximately 1 ounce of 3 different colors. All right. Now, you're going to be stitching with an H hook, which is a 5 millimeter. And then all else you need is your scissors and a needle for weaving in ends. I have my red out. We're going to be starting with color 1, and color 1 is our red. And we're going to be doing 2 rows, and then we'll do 2 rows of white. So I've got my white right here as well. So I'm ready when it's time to change colors. All right, so we're going to start with our color 1. We're going to start with our slip knot, and we're going to chain 6 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so now we're going to place a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we'll place a double crochet in those last 2 chains. 1 and 2. All right, so we have completed 1 block. Now we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, we're going to place 1 double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. And now we're going to stitch 2 double crochets, 1 in the next 2 chains. And it's going to look like this, like we have 2 feet or 2 toes. We're going to take this block and bring it up. We're going to join in the space between the chain 3 and the first double crochet. We're going to join with a slip stitch and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. This chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet. And now we're going to stitch 3 double crochets in this same space. 1, 2, and 3. All right, so now we have completed 2 rows. Here's our first row where we made our first block. Then we made our second block and our third block. So this is 1 row, and then this is the second row because we're working on an angle. All right, and that's how it should look after row 2. 2 blocks made. Now we're going to bring in our white. we're going to leave our color 1, which is our red, attached. So we'll have those 2 tails there. Whoops. I'm going to grab that one and make sure. I like to leave a long tail at first just so that doesn't happen. I want to snug that down, kind of hold it with my finger, and chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to repeat what we did. We're going to place a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll place 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, which of course are 2 chains. Okay, so again, it looks like I've got a little toe there. So we're going to turn this up. We're going to join in this space between that chain 3 and that first double crochet. We're going to chain 3, and we're going to place 3 double crochets in this space. 1, 2, 3. So now we have 2 blocks made. We're going to come up here to the space between the chain 3 and the first double crochet of that block and slip stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and stitch 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And see, now on row 3 we have 1, 2, 3 blocks made, and in our color 2. All right, we left our red yarn attached, and here's where we joined our white yarn. All right, and it might be a little bit clumsy having them attached, but if we don't leave them attached and carry them on the side, you end up having to weave in every single, actually every other row, and that can be just a little bit messy. And so the reason we carry those, and I'll show you when we change colors back to our red, that carrying it will keep it much neater. And then when we add the trim, the green trim, we just stitch over those yarns where we carried, and you have a much neater appearance. All right, so for row 3, we have 3 blocks in our color 2. Now we're ready for row 4. So we're going to chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, we're going to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in those 2 chain stitches. Now we're going to turn our work, and we're going to slip stitch in that space between that chain 3 and the first double crochet. Whoops, there we go. And chain 3. And then we'll place 3 double crochets in that same space. And we'll repeat that. Slip stitch, chain 3, and 3 double crochets. 1, oops, 2, and 3. And again, we'll repeat it one more time. Slip stitch, chain 3, and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And this is how row 4 should look. 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks of our color 2. And on the next row, we're going to bring back in our red for for row 5, not color 5. Row 5. All right, for row 5, we're going to bring our red back in, so we're going to bring it up. Make sure that this isn't drooping, but it's not pulling either. It's just kind of, you want it to be there but not drooping. And I put my thumb right there and kind of pull it so I can snug that down, and then I'll snug that white one back down. Okay? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, we're going to stitch a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook, and then we'll stitch 1 in the next 2. Okay, so we're going to turn our work, make sure all our strings are out of the way, slip stitch in that space between the chain 3 and the first double crochet, chain 3 and 3 double crochets in that space. 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll just repeat that on these next 3 blocks. Slip stitch, chain 3 and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, slip stitch, chain 3 and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, whoops, whoops, 3. Got it caught twice, didn't I? All right, our last slip stitch on this row, chain 3 and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. All right, so now we have completed row 5. We carried our yarn, but we didn't let it droop too much and we didn't let it pull too much, because we're going to stitch over that when we put our trim on. And that's the way that row 5 should look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks. Now we're ready for row 6. So again, we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, we're going to double crochet in the 4th chain. 1, 2, 3, 4. One double crochet in the last 2 chains. 1 and 2. Turn our work. And now we're going to do what we did on the other rows on this row. We're going to slip stitch between that chain 3 and our first double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, whoops, 3, and 3 double crochets in that space between that chain 3 and the next double crochet. I really love this stitch because it makes a nice texture as well as just really pretty. All right, so slip stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, 3 double crochets, and repeat on each of my blocks. All right, here's my last block. Slip stitch, chain 3, and 3 double crochets. All right. So now this is the way it should look at row 6. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks. And now for row 7, we're going to grab our white yarn, bring that back in, hold it down, snug everything down, and go ahead and do that chain 6. Okay, because we're coming back to our white yarn now. Snug that red one back down. There we go. And then we'll do 2 rows of the white. All right, so now what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat what we've been doing. You'll be increasing every row, and you're going to do this for 4 more rows. You'll do 2 rows of white and 2 more rows of red. And again, on your 10th row, you'll have 10 blocks. All right, so we're going to continue to repeat for 4 more rows. After that 10th row, we'll begin our decreases. So just to repeat, we're going to continue to repeat, increasing each row for 4 more rows. And then, of course, it'll be 2 rows of white and 2 rows of red. So I completed those 2 rows of white and 2 rows of red. This brings us to row 10, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blocks. All right, and so now if you want to make your washcloth bigger, you can continue increasing until it's as big as you would like. For our pattern, we're not going to be increasing anymore. I did want you to see here on the side where I carried my yarns. They're laying flat against there. They're not drooping, and it'll make it a lot easier when it comes time to put the trim on and weave those in. Basically, we'll be stitching over them. All right, so now we're going to begin the decrease rows. So I'm going to bring my white back in, snug that red down. We're just going to chain 1, and we're going to turn our work, and we're going to slip stitch in those 3 double crochets. So we're just going to slip stitch. Whoops, get in there. All right, so I slip stitched in those 3 double crochets. Okay, now we're going to go in this chain 3 space and slip stitch and chain 3. And we'll stitch 3 double crochets in that chain 3 space, just like we've been doing. But what we did is we did not increase, okay? And so you can see that makes that flat across there. All right, so now we're just going to go back down like we normally do, slip stitch, chain 3, and 3 double crochets in each of those chain 3 spaces, working back down our row. Now I do want to show you this. When you're turning your work, you can get that tangled sometimes, and I just take my skein of yarn and undo that. And it happens a few times because when we flip it around to do the other side, all right, it just happens naturally. Don't let it frustrate you, just unwind it. All right, so I'm going to work down this row, making that slip stitch, chain 3, and 3 double crochets in each of the blocks, just like we did when we were increasing, only now we're going to be decreasing. So I repeated that across as we have been doing. When I get to my last block though, we're not going to come up here and stitch. We're going to join to that chain 3 space. We're going to chain 1 and then turn our work, and then we'll just slip stitch in those 3 double crochets and slip stitch in that chain 3 space and chain 3. That way we've decreased at both ends. So this was row 11, and so now what we're going to do on row 12, we have stitched across the top here. So we're just going to stitch across like we've been doing with the 3 double crochets in the chain 3 space. And we're just going to be decreasing, and each row will have one less block because we're decreasing across. And you can see this is going to be flat here. All right, so I've slip stitched, I'm chaining 3 just like we've been doing. I'll stitch my 3 double crochets in that chain 3 space. And just repeat this back across the row. Oops, 1, 2, 3. All right, okay, and then we'll do the same thing when we get down here, and we'll end up with our point going this way. That will form the square. All right, so I'm going to stitch across this row, and then we'll show you the other end again, just to make sure you understand how to decrease the C2C, or corner to corner stitch. So I stitched back up like we normally do. Here's my last block. I'm going to join to that chain 3 space with a slip stitch, and we're changing color, so I'm going to bring in my red, snug everything down, being careful not to let it droop or pull. All right, we turned our work, and now I'm going to slip stitch in those 3 double crochets, slip stitch in the chain 3 space, and chain 3. And I want you to take a look at this. Yes, I've got a few strings laying around because we are leaving those attached to make it easier, but you can see down here where we've got like a flat edge, and up here we've got a flat edge, and that's what's going to happen as we continue to decrease down. And you'll decrease all the way down to 1 block like we have over here. So we began down here in this corner, and we increased up to those 10 rows, and then we decreased back down to 1 block or row, because remember, our rows are going sideways. Okay, so this is how it should look at this point. You can see the sides here where we carried our yarn, and we'll stitch over those, but we're finished with color 1 and color 2. So we're going to go ahead and cut those yarns, and then we'll bring in our green for our trim. But this is how it should look at this point. All right, so I've cut my red and my white, my color 1 and 2 off. I'm going to bring in the green, and we're going to go ahead and start the trim just right there. We're going to evenly single crochet down. In this corner, we'll place a single crochet, chain 1 single crochet, then we'll single crochet across, and repeat that on the 4 sides until we get back over here where we started. All right, so we're just going to evenly single crochet around first, and then we'll come back in and add that beautiful picot edge. I think gives it a little more of a festive feel. All right, so we're just going to evenly single crochet down to that first corner, and there's not a set amount of stitches that you need to have. If you want to, you could count how many you do on each side and make that same amount on each side, but you really don't have to. You just want to make sure they're not too close together and they're not too far apart. You don't want them bunching up, but you also don't want them pulling apart. All right? And so you're just going to evenly single crochet down the side until we reach that first corner. So I'm at this first corner. I placed a single crochet. We're going to chain 1, and then go right in that same stitch and stitch a single crochet. And that's just going to help it move around that corner nice and neat. And now we'll just stitch across the bottom, stitching evenly single crochets, and we'll do this around all 4 of the sides and placing that single crochet, chain 1 single crochet in each of our 4 corners. I've come across the bottom, but I do want to show you how to do that stitching over those yarns. Now this tail of yarn I'll stitch over a couple of stitches, then I'll come back in and use my needle and weave that in. But these other ones that are just carried, we're going to stitch over those when we make our single crochets. All right, and so we'll just go right over them. And I stitched a couple stitches over that white one. I'm going to move it, and then I'll come back over and weave that in with my needle. That way it's nice and secure and won't come undone. But as I'm stitching across, you can see I'm stitching over those tails of yarn where we carried our yarn across. And see, you can't see that. It's down underneath that stitching and makes it look nice and neat. And it's way better than having to weave in every time we change colors. All right? All right, I'm going to finish this first row of single crochet, and then I'll show you how to do the picot row. I have completed that first row of single crochet for our trim, and now we're going to do the second row, which is that picot stitch. And so what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet in the next 2 single crochets. So 1, 2. Then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to slip stitch in the top of that single crochet, and then single crochet in the next 2, 1 and 2. And see how that makes a little bump? 1, 2, 3, slip stitch. And I like to go through both those loops. I think it keeps the picot more situated where it needs to be. And so we're just single crocheting 2 times and then adding the picot to that second single crochet. And that's what gives us that fun trim. 1, 2. See how that looks? Isn't that cool? I just love it. All right, so picot is chain 3 and slip stitch in that single crochet, and I like to go in both loops of the single crochet. I just think it makes it a little bit more secure, makes it stand up better. All right, and then 1, 2 single crochets, picot, and repeat all the way around all 4 sides of our washcloth. And we're not stopping to do the single crochet, chain 1 single crochet. We're just going all the way around the whole edge of our washcloth. All right? Isn't that cute? I just love that trim. It has become one of my favorites. Two single crochets, 1 in each of the next 2, and picot. And repeat. It's also having a nice trim on there helps your washcloth hold its shape as well. I have now finished that picot trim. Isn't that just gorgeous the way it just adds a little extra fun Christmassiness to it? All right, so here's where we started here. And one thing, let me pull this out a little bit. You may not end up with the exact amount when you go to put it in, and it's okay. Just do the best that you can. You may have to skip 1 or 2 or add an extra picot. All right, and the way this trim is, if you do, it's not going to show because it's just so busy. All right, so I'm going to go in the back, grab that loop and pull it to the back so we can weave this in the back. Now I've gone ahead and weaved in my red and white yarns, but I still need to weave in these two green ones, but I'm just going to tuck them in for just a second, just so that you can see how pretty this is. Isn't that just gorgeous? I just love that trim. It looks so pretty. All right, I'm going to weave in those green ends, and then it'll be all ready for me to save for Christmas. Add this to my Christmas gifts. I have now completed 2 candy cane striped washcloths, and these are going to make a great set to give as a gift for Christmas. I really, really love how they turned out.